Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the
Space Center to right.
Well, good morning. What a pleasure it is for me to be here in the presence of so many American space pioneers and my heroes. Thank you for joining us as we rename this iconic facility. I'd like to welcome the elected officials and their representatives in the audience today, as well as our distinguished guests, NASA Administrator Charlie Bolden, members of the Apollo 11 crew, Lunar Module Pilot Buzz Aldrin, Command Module Pilot Michael Collins, and Backup Commander Jim Lovell. We're also privileged to have members of the Armstrong family with us today, and please welcome Mrs. Janet Armstrong, Mark Armstrong, their youngest son, Rick Armstrong, their oldest son, and Rick's children, Lily and Bryce Armstrong. Today we honor an American hero, an astronaut, a pilot, a professor, a father, and a friend. In 1966, Niel was the command pilot of the Gemini 8 mission, during which he performed the first successful docking of two vehicles in space. This was an amazing accomplishment, but it would be another first, one small step, that would earn him instant recognition for generations to come. As the commander of Apollo 11, Niel's step onto the moon's surface not only fulfilled the national goal set by President Kennedy, but established America as the space leader. Niel was one of the finest gentlemen I've ever known. I loved talking to him about flying. I think more than an astronaut, Niel was a pilot, a superb engineering test pilot. I remember one time at dinner, we were talking about lifting bodies in the new commercial crew market, and Niel talked about his experience in a meeting that he participated in out on the West Coast, where the decision was made to go with a capsule for the Mercury program. It was a faster way of having success to and from low Earth orbit. He was a wealth of knowledge, and he loved to share it. Kennedy Space Center was proud to launch Niel, Buzz, and Mike on their historic mission. But before they could make history, the Apollo 11 crew members spent time right here in the Operations and Checkout Building, or O&C. Built in January 1963, the O&C was first used to process some of the Gemini spacecraft. As Project Gemini ended, the O&C was used to test and process all of the Apollo spacecraft, and the astronaut crews spent 3 months training here for their missions. As our space program changed, The ONC was modified to accommodate the needs of subsequent programs. The Apollo-Soyuz test project, Skylab. I spent some time here training in Space Lab, the shuttle program, and the International Space Station. Remodeled again in 2009, it is being used today for the assembly and test of the Orion Multi-Purpose Crew Vehicle. And as you can see, Exploration Flight Test 1, or EFT-1 spacecraft, is being prepared for its test flight later this year. The building also contains the astronaut crew quarters, where crews stay prior to their missions. It's our home away from home, and the staff there was like family. I'll never forget my first time in astronaut crew quarters before it was remodeled. Here I was, staying in the same rooms as the Apollo astronauts stayed in. That was pretty neat for somebody who was awed by their accomplishments. And I don't know if it was true during the Apollo program, but they had the absolute best homemade chocolate chip cookies. and that walk out to the Astrovan after suiting up, that was something special. Since 1965, the Operations and Checkout Building has been the final stop for America's astronauts before they embark on their space journeys. Like all the others, the crew members of Apollo 11 left their mark, not only on the moon, but here in this building. 45 years later, Niel's spirit lives on in these halls, in our hearts, and now his name will be a constant reminder of where we've been, and that, in his words, our opportunities are unlimited. Words cannot express how honored I am to be part of this historic moment today. And now it's my privilege to introduce our administrator, Charlie Bolden.
Thanks very much for your introduction, and thanks for your great remarks. And I want to echo Bob's thanks to all of the members of the NASA family and the KSC community who are with us today. Lots of you way back there, but hopefully you can hear us. It's not just echoing around the building. I want to begin my remarks by reminding all of us why we're here on the Space Coast today. 45 years ago, NASA's journey to land the first humans on the moon began right here at the Kennedy Space Center. NASA astronauts, beginning with the Mercury 7 and continuing through Gemini and Apollo years, blasted off from these storied shores. For 30 years, the unprecedented success of our space shuttle program was made possible by you, the men and women of the Kennedy Space Center. So today, we have come home to commemorate what is arguably the most significant event in the history of human exploration, the Apollo 11 moon landing of July 20th, 1969. We're very fortunate to have with us two of the members of that historic mission, Buzz Aldrin and Mike Collins, as well as backup commander Jim Lovell, and the late Neil Armstrong's sons Mark and Rick, who Bob introduced earlier. They will help us mark this anniversary of the renaming of the Operations and Checkout Building for their father. As Bob
We are ready for the event.
See, we're getting it together. As Bob explained, this building holds a special place in NASA history. It served as the crew quarters for generations of NASA astronauts, myself included, who spent the final days leading up to launch in this facility. Millions of people around the world have been riveted by those iconic pictures of astronauts in their flight suits walking out of this very building on their way to those daring missions. NASA's next giant leap into space is taking shape right here. The new Orion multi-purpose crew vehicle is being assembled and tested within these very walls in preparation for its first test flight later this year, and its eventual use for human missions to an asteroid and Mars. It's altogether fitting that today we rename this facility the Neil Armstrong Operations and Checkout Building. Commander Armstrong was not only the first human to set foot on the moon. Throughout his life, he served his country as an astronaut, an aerospace engineer, a naval aviator, a test pilot, and university professor, and he constantly challenged all of us to expand the boundaries of the possible. He, along with his crewmates, Buzz Aldrin, Michael Collins, are a bridge from NASA's historic journey to the moon 45 years ago to our path to Mars today. At this time, I'd like to present to Bob Cabana a unique symbol of that bridge. I didn't know about this until recently. In 1987, Niel, Buzz, and Michael signed and presented a special patch that flew on their Apollo 11 mission to then NASA Administrator James C. Fletcher. Those of you who are familiar with NASA know that mission patches are common, mementos, and keepsakes that accompany just about every mission. But what is unique about this patch is its inscription that reads, "Carried to the moon aboard Apollo 11, presented to the Mars One crew," and it's signed by Niel, Buzz, Michael Collins. So 27 years ago, the men who accomplished what many believed was impossible were already imagining NASA's next giant leap, a human mission to Mars. And they had no doubt we would succeed. Let me tell you, neither do I. And neither does this guy I'm getting ready to present it to. So Bob, if you'd accept it.
Unbelievably cool.
Well, we present that patch to Bob for safekeeping because it's here at the Kennedy Space Center where the Mars One crew will lift off on America's next bold mission, going farther into space than ever before. We salute Neil Armstrong and his crewmates for blazing a path that is leading us all on the way from the first footprints on the moon to very soon the first footprints on Mars. And so now I'm going to turn it back over to Bob Cabana because we have some other friends who would like to talk to you all. And I'm going to let Bob take care of it.
You stay up here, sir. I think we got some special guests. Station, this is the Kennedy Space Center. How do you hear? Be here.
We have you loud and clear.
Hey, Swanee. Hey, Reed. It's good to see you.
It's good to talk to you too, Mr. Cabana.
No, it's Bob Swanee. Hey, so what do you think? What did the Apollo program mean to you guys when you were growing up?
Inspiration for me. It's one of the reasons why I'm here right now. I mean, it was an amazing thing to see, and it gave me so much hope that I could do the same thing. It's wonderful. You?
Well, Swanee, I wasn't alive. But as a child growing up, every summer we went on vacation to Ocean City, Maryland, and that's where my parents watched Neil make those first footprints on the moon, and they used to tell me this story every single summer. So I grew up with this in my mind all the time. So like you said, it was huge inspiration for me.
Hey, Swanee, I got a big question for you because I know you taught me how to fly the shuttle because many people may not know this, but Steve Swanson was once what we call a flight simulation engineer, an FSE, sitting in the center seat, probably scared to death watching us try to land. But he taught me how to fly a shuttle. And so, in your wildest imagination, did you ever envision you would be where you are today? And what advice do you have to some kids that are sitting down here right now looking?
Well, it was a dream. You don't ever think it's really going to come true. You just work hard at it. And that's exactly what you do. Just persevere, work hard, enjoy life, and maybe your dreams will come true. It did for me. I got lucky.
So, I don't know if you heard, but Charlie presented me with a patch that the Apollo 11 crew took to the moon and signed, and it was signed to the next NASA crew that goes to Mars. So, what do you think about the ISS as a test bed, as a learning place for deep space exploration, for going to Mars?
Well, Bob, if you're talking about long duration, which a trip to Mars is the epitome of long duration, then this is where we start, right here. We have a regenerative environmental control system that's processing urine into water. We're making our own oxygen. We're getting very close to a closed loop system. So this, to me, and reliability of the spacecraft, that's kind of the backbone of this mission that we have coming up. And it all starts right here on the ISS.
What about exercise and physical fitness? How much you guys got to exercise up there?
Definitely, that's another good point. You know, if we're going to go to Mars and get a long duration, we have to see and shape ourselves and be ready to function when we get there. And that's what we do. We work out 2 hours every day, about an hour of cardio and an hour of lifting weights, and it works out well for us. And I believe that with that kind of regime, you can do well when you land on Mars.
Hey, Reed, since you're the baby and you weren't alive, you know, do you have a message that you would like to give to the 3 Apollo crew members that we have here? We've got, since you can't see us, we've got Buzz Aldrin and Mike Collins and then Jim Lovell, who was the backup mission commander. What's your message to them?
My message is simple. These are heroes that I've had my entire life. Known these names that every day I've lived, and so I just want to say an enormous thank you. Thank you for putting our country on this path that we remain on today. And without you gentlemen, I wouldn't be up here with Swanee and my other crewmates today. And so my dreams came true thanks to them.
Bob probably dreamed of becoming the KSC director. I thought I would be off somewhere making money by now. So one of you will probably be in one of these 2 positions someday. You know, really, seriously, now that you've seen what you've seen, tell me where you envision will be 45 years from today, either one of you.
I hope
He'll still be alive.
Adam told me when I just started this path at NASA, he told all of us, it's better to have a mission ahead of you than a mission behind you. And I hope people are lining up, not for the Mars 1 patch, but for the Mars 20, and who knows, maybe heading out towards Saturn or something crazy that we haven't even thought about yet. So I think the future's bright.
Yeah, I'm with you, Reed. I think we have an outstanding future in front of us, and part of it's sitting right behind us here in this Orion spacecraft that's going to fly in December. We got a great path forward.
So you guys have been great in allowing us to come aboard and spend some time with you. I know you've got 4 other crew members who are back there kind of backing you up and wishing they could be where you are. So please tell them we said hello. Thanks for everything that you do. And Reed, you're becoming a rock star with all your tweets and twits and Instagram and all that other stuff. So, and it's good to see both of your hair growing back.
Steve, don't worry, you're not a rock star yet. It was great talking to you guys. Any final remarks that you'd like to make before we close it off?
Just again, thanks, and to repeat what Reed said is thank you all who came before us. You inspired us and you led the way for us. We really appreciate it.
You guys just keep doing a great job up there. This is KSC out.
I forgot, we're supposed to introduce the next person. So it's my honor to introduce Rick Armstrong, who's then going to give us some remarks from the first set of remarks from the Armstrong family. Rick, you got it.
It occurred to me that if one gets their name on a building, it's not too much of a stretch to suppose that one could also be in charge of that building. I started to think about what having Dad in charge of this building would mean to those of you who work here, if he were here manning his office and roaming the halls. With that scenario in mind, here are a few things you might find useful to know. He will expect you to be honest and forthright at all times, and he will be fair, almost to a fault. For example, when he was a professor at the University of Cincinnati, he once wrote on a student's paper, "Did you turn this in late? Let me know if I should deduct points." I don't know actually what happened next in this case, but I'm willing to bet that points were deducted. If he asks you about something and you're not prepared, best bet might be to stall. My first suggestion is to ask him something about airplanes. Any airplane will do. You might get lucky and get him off on a tangent so that he forgets his original question for a little while anyway. If you've already used the airplane gambit, you might try something like, can you show me how to do inverse logs with a slide rule? That should be good for a couple hours at least. Whatever you do, don't try to bluff your way through the issue with him. I've tried, it does not work. He will not tell you how to do your job. He won't micromanage you. It will certainly help you if you ask for it. He won't do your work for you. One possible exception to this, feel free to ask him for help with your math problems. Seriously, not only will he explain the specifics of the problem you are working, but he will also make sure you understand all the underlying concepts, even ones you didn't know applied. I probably should have mentioned this as another stall tactic. He won't pretend to know something about a subject he doesn't, and he has no problem saying, I don't know. Don't expect that situation to last very long. He is a bit of a stickler for accuracy and precision, so make sure that you are too. Although, if you're working in this building, I'm pretty sure you've probably got that concept covered already. Having been on the beneficiary of superlative work by so many on the ground in the past, he knows how mission critical that is going forward. And I'm quite sure he would have loved to have been a part of that for Orion. I know we are all very much looking forward to seeing how that all unfolds. Now I'd like to ask my brother Mark to come up and say a few words. Thank you.
On behalf of the Armstrong family, I'd like to thank you for this tremendous honor. This Orion vehicle behind us is truly impressive. And it is our hope that the new name that graces this facility will inspire those that work here for many, many years to come. On a beautiful Florida morning in the late 1960s, my father and one of his buddies, one Pete Conrad, found themselves here at the Cape with a rare opening in their normally busy schedules. The two of them decided to go water skiing and somehow acquired a boat on the Banana River. At some point during their adventure, Pete was driving and Dad was skiing behind. And I should point out that in such a circumstance, when you've got two athletic guys engaged in some sort of sporting activity, it's perfectly natural and nearly unavoidable that a little friendly competition should arise. Now, it's no secret that Pete liked to go fast, and I suspect that in a good-natured attempt to dump Dad in the river, he was doing his best to both maximize his velocity and to maneuver the boat in such a way as to force Dad to jump the wake. And he was most assuredly looking behind him with a toothy Pete Conrad grin, sort of like this. And that is the precise moment that the incident occurred. Well, word got out that the incident occurred, and some of the guys, probably spearheaded by well-known jokester Wally Schirra, wanted to make sure that the incident was not forgotten, that it was forever memorialized, and that it had happened under the expertly trained manual control of one of the world's most accomplished pilots. As a result, this painting was commissioned. That's a cue. Can we get that on the big screen? This painting was commissioned capturing that the boat was unquestionably run aground. So to do our part to honor Wally's wishes of memorialization, we've had this painting restored and reproduced in Chiclet. And with light hearts, we hereby give this artist proof to Kennedy Space Center for permanent safekeeping. The next speaker was a great friend and colleague of my father's, a fellow naval aviator and the backup commander for Apollo 11. And I am fortunate enough to have him as a friend and a trusted advisor. A stalwart of Gemini and Apollo, he flew 4 times on Gemini 7, 12, and Apollo 8 and 13. It is well chronicled that during Apollo 13, he used a mirror to look out the window and behind to observe evidence of an oxygen tank explosion. A mirror that is now permanently affixed above the water fountain in the old mission control room at Johnson Space Center. Fortunately for all of us, Pete Conrad used no such device to look behind him so many years ago on the Banana River, or we would have had no story to share this morning. Please welcome Jim Lovell.
Thanks, Mark. I'm going to hire him to give me my PR agent here. Neil Armstrong was a close friend and an icon that I think represented the best in America. I first met Neil 52 years ago. We were the second group of 9 astronauts that met secretly under the name of Max Peck at the Rice Hotel in Houston in 1962. Now, when the rest of us discovered that Neil was already a NASA employee, we knew there was going to be tough competition ahead. But Neil was a team player, and over the years, his engineering expertise contributed much to the success of our space program. Neil and I spent a week together in Pensacola learning to fly helicopters. I suspected that he had some previous experience, and he only kind of laughed when it took me some time to figure out how to control that machine. On our way home, we learned that President Kennedy was killed. And we wondered at that time what that would do to our program. I was one of the capsule communicators when Neil and Dave Scott sailed peacefully out of radio range on Apollo 8, only to return in deep trouble. And I was assigned to Neil's Apollo.
Or to Neil's, and I saw this guy roller skating around in the driveway, and I said, "Who's that?" I said, "That's Neil Armstrong." You can never tell what Neil is going to do. He was very surprising. He was great there. And he and I worked together so closely on the backup crew for Apollo 8. And in some ways, I was backing up Jim on Apollo 8, whether you remembered it or not. Of course, he had put me through the paces on Gemini 12. It was a great pleasure for me to learn many years after that the commander of Apollo 8 had been offered the commander position on Apollo 8, Apollo 11, the first landing. He turned it down. Glad that I don't think Bill Anders and Jim really appreciated that. It was only recently that I learned that Apollo 11 probably was not going to be the first landing. The LEM 5 that we flew was overweight. And in the 70s, in the 67 and 68, the first landing was going to be in mid-October of 69, and LEM 6 was going to do it. The crews probably would have ended up the same, and it would have been Pete Conrad instead of Niel, Mike, and I. I've been known to have been in the right place at the right time many times. And having Niel, after Apollo 8, specifically, one question, asked if he wanted me to go with him, he said yes, and I will be ever, ever grateful. I didn't know much about test pilot training because I hadn't been through a test pilot training before I was selected. But then I commanded the test pilot school afterward, not exactly what I wanted, but I learned what test pilots were all about. And that man, without a doubt, was one of the best, certainly the best test pilot I feel that was selected for the NASA program. I hate to always point things that are wrong, but in your program it says, my name is Edwin, quote, Buzz Aldrin Jr. In 1983, I legally changed it. And I've been thinking of adding a middle name, Lightyear. The guy who brought us there and brought us back. I'm very pleased to introduce to you right now Mike Collins.
Thank you, Charlie Bolden and Bob Cabana. I wish I could have snuck aboard one of your shuttle flights, but all I could do was watch and admire the majesty of that great machine and the knowledge and the dedication with which you folks here prepared it for flight time after time. Thank all of you for working here. I see a few old friends out there, and if I know you, you must really be old. Janet, not you, ever young. Also, thank you for putting me last in this sequence of speakers. Not that I would ever make fun of Jim or Buzz, but if I should slip, they'll have no chance for rebuttal today. But Lovell and Aldrin, I always remember them as the Gemini 12 crew. The capstone of that little gem of a program that you guys ran out on Pad 19. Gemini, the successful bridge between Mercury and Apollo? Ah, yes, and Jim and Buzz, Gemini 12, what memories. I can't remember whether either of them ever went on to Apollo, but wait, it's coming back to me now. Jim served as backup crew on the Tom Hanks flight. And Buzz is the one who seems confused about the first lunar landing. He wants everyone in the world to get on the internet and explain to him what happened that day. I've tried to help him, but no luck. I can't remember where I was that day. But Niel, in the early 60s, I was in the Air Force, assigned to fighter test out at Edwards, while Niel was at the other end of the flight line in what was then called the NASA Flight Research Center, now known as the, guess what? Niel was one of the X-15 pilots, a small elite group which flew the rocket ship to Mach 5 or 6 and several 100,000 feet. Even in this tight group, I thought Niel stood out. He had the reputation of being the one with the deepest and best understanding of that machine, its design, and how it should be tested. As a kid, Niel built model airplanes, like a lot of us did, but he took it a step further and built a wind tunnel. A wind tunnel to measure and improve his designs. He later applied that powerful combination of curiosity and intelligence to his work as an experimental test pilot, flying new jet fighters, Gemini, the LLTV, you remember the lunar landing test vehicle, and Apollo. I think we all remember Niel's one small step. But I don't think that really explains the man. Sure, he flew model airplanes, but he also built a wind tunnel. How many kids do that? He took the process one step further. Again, that powerful combination of curiosity and intelligence propelled him to the top of his profession. Over and over again, he took it one step further, and that eventually brought him to the last rung on the ladder of the Apollo 11 limb. Okay, if you prefer, call it one small step, but add one step further, because that was Niel's way. If he were here today, I think he would enjoy prowling around this building every nook and cranny. More than anyone else I have known, I felt he had an intuitive grasp of flight machinery and its complexity, and of the intricate knowledge required by you in the jobs that you perform here daily. Niel probably liked hangars better than office buildings, but he was certainly good in either venue. He wasn't out on the rubber chicken circuit as frequently as some wanted him to be, but get him airborne in one of your machines and he was in a class by himself. I very much like the fact that his name would be on this building. He would not have sought this honor. That was not his style. But I think he would be proud to have his name so closely associated with this, the heart and the soul of the space business. On Niel's behalf, thank you for what you do every day.
Thank you all so much for coming out today. Thank you, Jim, Buzz, Mike, Rick, and Mark for being part of this. I really appreciate you coming out. It is a special place. It's a special building, and I can't think of anybody better whose name could be on it than Niel Armstrong. He was quite an individual, and I'm really pleased to be a part of this today. This concludes our event. Thank you all again for coming, and go Orion.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated for a special video, followed by a viewing of Orion. You are then invited to view the display in the lobby in honor of Neil Armstrong, and thereafter enjoy refreshments in the mission briefing room.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the
Kennedy Space Center Director.
Well, good morning. What a pleasure it is for me to be here in the presence of so many American space pioneers and my heroes. Thank you for joining us as we rename this iconic facility. I'd like to welcome the elected officials and their representatives in the audience today, as well as our distinguished guests. NASA Administrator onto the moon's surface not only fulfilled the national goal set by President Kennedy, but established America as the space leader. Neil was one of the finest gentlemen I've ever known. I loved talking to him about flying. I think more than an astronaut, Neil was a pilot, a superb engineering test pilot. I remember one time at dinner, we were talking about lifting bodies in the new commercial crew market, and Neil talked about his experience in a meeting that he participated in out on the West Coast, where the decision was made to go with a capsule for the Mercury program. It was a faster way of having success to and from low Earth orbit. He was a wealth of knowledge and he loved to share it. Kennedy Space Center was proud to launch Neil, Buzz, and Mike on their historic mission. But before they could make history, the Apollo 11 crew members spent time right here in the Operations and Checkout Building, or ONC. Built in January 1963, the ONC was first used to process some of the Gemini spacecraft. As Project Gemini ended, the ONC was used to test and process all.
And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon and discontinue and do the other thing. Not because we
members of the Apollo 11 crew, Lunar Module Pilot Buzz Aldrin, Command Module Pilot Michael Collins, and Backup Commander Jim Lovell. We're also privileged to have members of the Armstrong family with us today, and please welcome Mrs. Janet Armstrong, Mark Armstrong, their youngest son, Rick Armstrong, their oldest son, and Rick's children, Lily and Bryce Armstrong. Today we honor an American hero, an astronaut, a pilot, a professor, a father, and a friend. In 1966, Niel was the command pilot of the Gemini 8 mission, during which he performed the first successful docking of 2 vehicles in space. This was an amazing accomplishment, but it would be another first, one small step that would earn him instant recognition for generations to come. As the commander of Apollo 11, Niel stepped